when you learn another language, especially if you are practicing or getting to know people who actually live in a country that speak that language, you start to learn more, not just about their language, but more about their culture as well. And as you learn more about their culture, you start to have more empathy for how that individual thinks and how people in that culture tend to think. I have said it once before, but this is a lighter week for my Mandarin lessons. I basically have anywhere between 3 to 4 hours of lessons every single day, except for Wednesday actually. Wednesday I only have 2 hours now that I'm talking this out. But yeah, it's interesting. I only have one teacher this week versus next week I've got 2 teachers. So I have, essentially call it 3 hours of lessons with one teacher, 2 hours of lessons with another teacher in the day. And this week it's been a very heavy reading, a very heavy reading focus, vocabulary focus, and a little bit of conversation. So I would say it's about 70% reading and reading comprehension, which then leads into vocabulary because you need to know new vocabulary to be able to read, different things. Which then also, again, now that I'm talking this out, it's making me realize that also leads into grammar as well, because often when you're reading something, to be able to understand it, you need to understand something new about grammar. So I would say it's 70% reading, grammar, vocab, but then there's also probably a 30% speaking component as well as of right now, because as we're reading things, as we're discussing things, as I have questions, we're also having different conversations about different things. So it's a balance I'm happy with as of right now, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the week goes for these intensive Mandarin lessons. And also really excited to see how things evolve over the next 3 weeks.
今天就可以借书吗？可以，一会儿下来借书3楼到了。Oui, ça va. Je suis un peu fatigué. Et toi, qu'est-ce que t'as fait aujourd'hui? Oh, is it? Oh, okay. My aunt has a pool here in Calgary. She has one, but she lives in a very nice house. She's out in like she's I guess she's technically it's in Calgary, but it's like right outside. So when you're there, you don't feel like you're in Calgary. You see like forests and trees and like everything. And they have a pool that, ironically, I don't know how many people actually use it. Oh hey, just before we start, I want to ask you something about tomorrow's lesson. For tomorrow, can we start like 15 minutes early? So at, like 3:45 your time? Okay, cool. I'll just put that on my calendar. That'll be perfect. Okay, so 12:45 my time. Okay, perfect. I changed it.
Hey everyone, how's it going? AZREN here. Hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I want to talk about languages that I am interested in, but that I'm probably never really going to ever go out and learn. Now, the first bunch of languages that I am interested in, but probably will never learn, are African languages. Right now, I know there's lots of different languages in Africa. Like, it's not like everybody speaks one single language, excuse me. But really, any of the African languages, I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to doing it. Also, in a similar boat are languages that are within the same language families as the languages that I want to learn. It feels like it's just for those languages actually, it feels like it's a nice to have, but it doesn't feel like, yeah, I really want to do it. It kind of feels like that extra little cherry on top. It's like you have this really delicious chocolate cake and you have like 17 cherries on top, and now those cherries that you're adding are just extra cherries, and you're like, yeah, I could use some extra cherries. I would like extra cherries, but that being said, I don't really need the extra cherries. I might rather go do something completely different and buy another different type of cake altogether. Like, I hope you guys get this analogy. It's a weird analogy, I know, bear with me. What is up, my fellow anchorers? I don't even know if that really is a term, but this is my very first Anchor audio or Anchor podcast or Anchor, whatever you want to call this. My very first one that I'm making, and I'm excited to test this out. So today, I think what I want to do on this podcast or this audio is I want to sort of comment on a specific article, or in this case, I guess you could call it an infographic that I found online. So I found this infographic on elearninginfographics.com. So I'll say that again, elearninginfographics.com/y-language-learning-is-important-infographic. And basically, this infographic, and I wish I could show it to you guys here on the podcast, but basically what it is, it's an infographic that is going through a couple of different reasons as to why language learning is important. And I want to comment a little bit on this infographic. So a couple things on this infographic I really agree with, and a couple seem to be a little bit odd in my opinion. Things I agree with. Number one, it says that language learning is important because it keeps your mind healthy. I don't really know much about science, and I don't really know everything about that, but that being said, it logically makes sense to me. When I think about that, it makes sense, like, based on things I've read in the past, there seems to be a lot of research behind it, and you know what? I agree with it. Let's not spend a lot of time on that. I mean, I think we can all probably agree that learning different languages, really learning anything for that matter, is good for the brain and is good for your mind. Number two here that I agree with is it says that it helps understand, learning a language helps you understand how people think. And I want to dig into this because I think that a lot of people would disagree with this. I think based on my understanding, based on the conversations that I've had with other people, some people don't fully agree with this. And to be perfectly open with you, I don't understand why some people don't agree with this. When you learn another language, especially if you are practicing or getting to know people who actually live in a country that speak that language, you start to learn more, not just about their language, but more about their culture as well. And as you learn more about their culture, you start to have more empathy for how that individual thinks and how people in that culture tend to think. Like, I mean, obviously it's stereotyping. I cannot say that I'm Canadian. I can't say that every single Canadian thinks the same way, because that's just, it's just not real. It's just not how things work, right? However, I think it is very easy to say that people from different cultures, people from different countries, people from different backgrounds, often there are some commonalities in the way that they think, right? Because of where they grew up, because of environments, family, etc. And when you start to learn another language, especially if you're communicating with people that speak that language as a native language, I do think it helps you understand not only that person that you're speaking with, but it helps you understand different perspectives on the world, in my opinion. Again, this is more for bragging rights. I would love to speak some kind of an invented language, something like Elvish from Lord of the Rings or something like that. Like, I would love it if I spoke that fluently. That would be so freaking cool. But again, that's just more for bragging rights. It's more for the attention and the love of, wow, AZREN'S so amazing, you know. And obviously, that obviously is a driving factor for me when I make decisions. But again, not such a huge driving factor that I'm gonna drop everything and go learn Elvish. But that might be, now that I'm talking this out, maybe I will go learn Elvish. That would be super freaking cool. I would love that. Oh my goodness. Why did you focus on the Southeast Asian languages?
So I think it basically started with Korean first, and then I realized, I think I was searching for Korean music and I realized they released Japanese singles a lot, so then I started getting interested in Japanese. And then I'm like, oh wait, all of this actually stems from Chinese, why don't I learn Chinese? And then the real reason I learned a lot of my languages is music. I'm really into music from different countries, so once I searched for a Korean song and I accidentally downloaded a Vietnamese song, I'm like, what is this like? I have to learn this, and then that sort of just stemmed to, you know, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia and stuff